Hi, I'm Georgina Murray and you're watching Kickstart Your Mojo. I'm here today with the world-class magician Michael Vincent, and I'm going to be asking him some questions about magic and his life. Hi Michael.
Hi there, how are you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. I just wanted to ask you first about your journey as a magician. I understand from a young age that you were captivated by it.
I was.
Yeah. And how did you keep pursuing that passion and not giving up on your dream?
That's a very good question. I saw my first magician when I was 6 years old. This was in 1970. And I would see many magicians, say from 1970 to 1974. The time frame is important because what changed my life was I saw Paul Newman and Robert Redford in the film The Sting. It was a story of con men, grifters, card sharks, and I just became so captivated with the psychology of deception, the lure of gambling, and also Paul Newman played a card shark in the film, and you see some real demonstrations. So for me, I was just so captivated by the subject itself. I started off learning card magic, just sleight of hand with cards. And then magic came a little bit later, but I got books from the library. So if you can imagine, the books were quite technical. So I really had to find a way to make sense of the written word. So there was no time for boredom. And my parents were happy, it kept me off the streets and out of trouble.
So you're just spending hours reading these magic books?
Exactly.
Over
and they were very well written books, by the way. So it helped cultivate my reading style, my learning style. And it engaged me on so many levels psychologically. It was a very creative process, you know, that period of time, say from 1970 to 1980. So yeah, so there was never any room for boredom.
No.
I was totally engaged.
And did you ever feel like giving up on magic, or was it just that you were so in love with magic that you couldn't even consider doing that? You were just driven to continue with it?
Yeah, that's a very important question because before I turned professional, giving magic up was never an option. When I turned professional, I thought to myself, okay, I can now get, there are two distinct worlds. There's show and then there's business, show business. And they're two separate worlds, two different disciplines, two different mindsets. So I really felt terribly inadequate when it became time for me to start thinking about business, getting bookings. Am I doing the right thing? Oh God, I can't even cope with this. And plus I've got to learn the tricks, do the performances, manage my business side.
Oh, I see. It's a whole new set of skills. It's not about doing the magic.
Exactly.
Yeah, running a business.
So that was the only time when I began to harbour serious doubts about whether or not I wanted to be professional. But slowly but surely I started to learn how to type letters and craft business proposals and deal with clients and negotiations and all of that. Whilst maintaining my love for the craft. I must be honest, my enthusiasm for magic did dip slightly while I was engaged in other activities.
Yeah.
But then something would pull me back. I'd see a magician do a great trick that would inspire me, or I'd go to a lecture or a workshop and I'd see something or hear something that would trigger a thought, and I can't wait to get home and start practicing again.
So you just kept being pulled back into it?
Yeah.
Something that...
And you know, something did pull me back, and it's almost like the subject was pulling me rather than me forcing it. I always say to people, magic chose me, not the other way around. And that's a very strong pull, I think. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but I think, you know, the subject itself, I love the subject because it's a very interesting subject. And I would do it even if I won the lottery, because I love it.
Because you love it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I know that you've obviously entertained and, you know, interacted with audiences across the globe. What has that taught you about communicating, connecting with people in a positive way?
Well, if you look at the role of the magician, first and foremost, his job is to fool you. There's no other way around it.
Yeah.
And it's the one thing a magician can be honest and upfront about. I'm going to fool you. And hopefully I'm going to make you enjoy the process. Okay? So how do you do that and still communicate with people in such a way that they think you're an agreeable person, you're likable, or you're someone that they would want to invite to their home or take them out for a drink? We're now looking at another set of skills which I had to cultivate. And this was the social dynamics, the skill of communicating, sharing myself authentically, being able to listen to people and get a sense of who they are as people. And one thing I notice about myself, I'm quite nosy when it comes to people. I like getting inside people's world to understand their point of view of the world that they live in.
Yeah.
Because we all live in the same world, but we all experience it differently. I find this really interesting.
Definitely.
And I'm also interested in the psychology of people. Why do people do what they do?
Yeah.
So this is another thing that fuels my interest when I'm talking with people, even when I'm not doing magic. And this is all ammunition. I hate to use that word, but it gives me information that I can use when I'm performing. Okay? So what has it taught me? A number of things. People are a subset of their beliefs, their values, and their rules.
Yeah.
And there's millions of variations on that with every person that I engage with. And I'm like Columbo trying to dissect. Okay, this is an interesting person, but at the heart of it all, it's just a human being that wants to be acknowledged, valued, and appreciated. I learned this from Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
Every human being wants to be acknowledged and appreciated.
And you do that when you're connecting as a magician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even when I'm not doing tricks, but it's an important skill of life to be able to do that in such a way that a person feels important. And I think Dale Carnegie taught the greatest skill that you can have is making another person feel significant and important. If you can do that, you can win the game. Yeah, both sides win, in fact. So magic has really helped me in that regard, because if I'm going to create a perfect illusion for someone, they've got to trust me, which is quite a paradox when you think about it.
Yeah, when you're trying to fool them with your magic.
Because I've got to fool them with the trick, but at the same time, with that trust, there's a payoff. They get to experience the most profound of human emotions, pure astonishment. Without the astonishment, there's no magic. It's just me fooling you, and you're left with the psychological confrontation of having the wall pull over your eyes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
But if you experience astonishment, it's a win-win.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I hope you guys get it too.
And my last question is, I wanted to ask you about, what is magical in your own life? What makes it magical?
My experience of life is truly magical for a number of reasons. First and foremost, when I wake up every morning, I get to create my day exactly as I choose. There's a lot to be said for working for yourself. And I've had the distinction of working for someone and then working for myself, and I know what I prefer.
You know that freedom.
The freedom, yes, and the ability to create my self-expression as I choose. So that's one thing. Second thing, the things that are magical in my life are really having a thought and seeing how quickly I can make it happen. Classic example, I said to a friend of mine who lives in Hong Kong, I'll see you in Hong Kong next year. This was in 2012. Earlier this year, I get an email out of the blue with an invitation to visit China. So look how quickly I said something, and it happened. To me, that's magical. So it's almost like someone's listening.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I could travel and see these wonderful places and share my work with people in that way. But the most magical thing for me now is the quality of my relationships with people. In a nutshell, it comes down to that, because I'm nothing without people in my world that I love and who love me. In a nutshell, that's it. How can I contribute and serve people I care about?
That's fantastic.
And I operate and approach every human being as a stranger waiting to become a friend. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much. It's Georgina Murray, and you've been watching Kickstart Your Mojo.